Hi everyone, welcome to Playful Pathways. My name is Aideen. Today I'm going to talk about tantrums. By the end of this video, you're going to have a bit more of a scientific understanding about how your child's brain is developing and what is going on in there when a tantrum erupts. Before I do though, I'm going to remind you to press subscribe so that you can be notified when new videos are released. And if you're enjoying them, then have a look at my Patreon page where you can find out how to support us so we can keep making you more new videos every week. Okay, let's talk about tantrums. I think it's really helpful for parents to learn about how the brain develops in early childhood in the same way that we learn about our physical bodies or other stages of development. Hopefully this information will help you to stay calmer when tantrums happen and also help you to bring your child back to their normal selves. In every brain, there are three basic structures. There's the spinal cord and brainstem, the limbic system, and the cortex. And I'm borrowing Dr. Dan Siegel's technique here and using my hand to demonstrate these to you. The brainstem, which is sometimes called the reptilian brain, is the most primitive and the fastest acting part of the brain. It's responsible for all the autonomic functions like heart rate and breathing. It also controls our fight, flight, freeze or fall asleep responses. Its basic function is survival. It is keeping us alive. This part of the brain is the most developed and wired up at birth. Obviously, newborn babies are completely vulnerable. They can't do anything for themselves. So this part of the brain is very, very alert and sensitive to any perceived threats to survival, and it will make sure that a baby gets the attention that it needs by crying. Over time, when the baby's had lots of experiences of its needs being met quickly, then it begins to get the picture that the world is a pretty safe place and it probably doesn't need to be quite so alert all the time, and the baby doesn't need to cry quite so much. The next part of the brain to develop is the limbic system, or the mammalian brain it's sometimes called. This really is the emotional part of the brain. It wants to connect and form bonds with other people. It's where long-term memory is stored, and it's responsible for regulating emotions, motivation, and feelings of stress. We see this part of the brain really kicking in when babies start to make eye contact and be interested in relationships with other people, as well as when we start to see them show a full palette of emotional responses in non-verbal ways. What this part of the brain really wants is to feel love and connection. Both of these parts of the brain, the emotional brain and the survival brain, are largely unconscious, and we're not really aware of what's going on in there. It's in the development of this third part of the brain that we start to see consciousness and control emerge. This part of the brain is called the cortex, or the human brain, and it's really important, especially this bit right at the front. This is the part that's starting to come online during the toddler years. This is where language develops and the ability to plan and reason and control impulses and to think logically and consequentially. It's also where short-term memory is stored. When you hear your child starting to say, why, you'll know that this part of the brain is really kicking in, because it's this part of the brain that wants to learn and understand. The cortex also helps to regulate the whole system, but unfortunately it is the slowest acting. So for an adult, when something scary or unsettling happens, usually, this is quite often happens, you'll have a physical response. This part of the brain kicks in first, and your heart rate will change or your breathing will change, sometimes before you're even consciously aware that something has happened. And then the next thing is that you might have an emotional response. You'll feel a wave of fear or a wave of panic. And then finally, the human brain will kick in, which is the part that will actually work out whether or not it's a real threat and plan for what you're going to do about it, or it works out it wasn't a real threat and sort of tells the rest of the system to calm down and then tries to make sense of the whole experience. For children though, this nicely regulated system is still very much under construction. In the toddler years, they're still learning how to think logically and plan ahead and control their impulses and to communicate with language. So sometimes if an emotionally triggering experience happens, now this could be fear or anger or frustration, it becomes too much for this logical brain to control. It becomes overloaded and suddenly the child has a tantrum. So suddenly you aren't dealing with a rational, logical, in control and able to communicate human being. That part's gone. You're dealing with a completely dysregulated and emotionally overwhelmed animal. The part of their brain that can really think about what they're doing or saying or can understand what you're saying just isn't available to them in this moment. They might not even be very aware of what their body is doing. They could be crying or hitting or rolling around on the floor. The more we can support children during the development of this part of the brain, the better. If we can see a tantrum approaching, we get in there, we help them to re-regulate, then we'll be teaching them and helping them learn how to maintain this state better for themselves. So the next time your child has a tantrum, you can reassure yourself that they are a perfectly normal part of child development, they are not personal, and they will pass. To find out how to help your child through a tantrum, then have a look at this video. Or if you'd like my guide to remembering these main points, then head to my Patreon page where patrons can download this and other resources. Finally, if you like my videos, then press subscribe and have a look at the others on my channel. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.